I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. Arch Advocate Podcast, everybody. Welcome to the show. Yes, New York. Amazing. Don't stare at the sun. You'll go crazy. We're going to be talking a little bit today about how to not go crazy. Very important. But first, all right, now listen, before I read today's devotional to you, look, you guys that have been with me for a long time, and girls, you guys know, like, my whole thing is, like, just don't go crazy, right? Like, there's things that are happening that are meant to make you go crazy, because there's certain glitches in the human condition that is very easy to go nuts, right? We saw it in the tech bubble, right? About 20 years ago. It was a tech bubble. A bunch of people went nuts buying .com this and .com that. They went crazy. They thought they were getting rich, and then they found out that they were poor. As a matter of fact, they found out that they were actually worse off. They were more poor than when they began, and they went crazy. A lot of people killed themselves, right? We started off this show last year about the cryptocurrency phenomenon in the market. This new cryptocurrency market emerged, and I said, look, there's a lot of things coming. I can see them coming. Let me just help you to not go crazy, right? And that's kind of one thing I'm good at, right? Just how to see it, how to look at it, how to look at the sun without going blind. You've got New York just passed to make it so that now they're able to abort babies all the way up to that 40th week. 280 days is a full-term pregnancy. You can now kill a baby on day 280 as long as that baby hasn't breathed in a breath of air. You can now kill a baby. You can now literally inject chemicals into a baby to kill it. A living soul that is full term. And if that's not bad enough, then you have what's going on with the Covington thing, and you're looking at leftists, and you're looking at them like, why? But you've already apologized. You've already apologized for the fact that you got the story wrong. Why are you now doubling down even after you've apologized? Go mad looking at that. Oh, we just found out last year that there was a literal Muslim terrorist training camp going on in New Mexico, and the authorities knew about it and did nothing. You stare long enough at that, and then you find out that, there's actually several of them. There's several of them in America right now, and guess what? The FBI, the CIA, all the law enforcement, they all know. They know. They're aware of it. And yet they continue, like, you can go mad. You look at the funny little story about Donald Trump, like, canceling Nancy Pelosi's travel plans, and that's, kind of funny, and chuckle, ha. And then you find out that, like, there was like 93 people with her, many of whom were, the only reason that they were on that bus heading towards the airport is because they were kin. They were kinfolk. Not government employees, not ambassadors, not even business people looking to do business in Brussels and, Afghanistan or whatever. Like, they're children, like grandkids and stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, so this Speaker of the House, the person who's third in line to be President of the United States, is just looking at the taxpayer like, yeah, you have to pay for my family to travel and have a good time. Like, that's what you're there for, taxpayer. You're there to enrich my life so that me and my family can have a good time. You look at that, and in light of all the other things, it can make you crazy. You find out that there's a government slush fund that they use, that they all voted for, so that they can pay for their raping. Which, by the way, there was some good news on that recently, but it's like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Just found out today that the reason why that new Muslim Somali lady that Somali immigrant who is a Muslim who hates Jews and is open about hating Jews. She hates Jews. She wants them all exterminated. She's made that very clear. And she is a congresswoman now. And we just found out because she slandered, these young Covington boys and said things that were not true. We just found out that there is no way to sue her because many years ago, Congress decided that they would vote for a new law to make it so that they cannot be sued for saying stupid things, for saying things that are untrue. They cannot be sued. They have immunity. Diplomatic immunity. Remember that? Name that movie. Come on. Officer Riggs. Diplomatic immunity. I can say any kind of lie or whatever, and there's nothing you can do. Laws are for you, peasants. Laws for thee, but not for me. That's it. That whole thing of laws for me and not for thee, that is a death sentence on any nation. When that is going on, when you see that is going on, your nation is dead. It can be resurrected, but it's dead. Not dying. Dead. Imar, whatever her name is, Somali Muslim who hates Jews, she cannot be sued for the lies that she spread. Because Congress, our dear leader, our leaders have decided we don't want to be sued. Just like they decided we don't want to pay for our rapes. We'd rather the taxpayer pay for it. That seems better to me. I don't want to come out of pocket. I'd rather the taxpayer paid for my rapings. I don't want to pay for my family to go to Brussels and Afghanistan and Iran. Just let the little people pay for it. Right? Those things and a whole host of other things. Flint, Michigan, and the water situation. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, I can go on and on. It never stops. And then when you put all of those things into a basket and stare at it, it's like looking at the sun, man. It'll make you crazy. Burn your retinas and change your mind. Make your mind go crazy. So what do? I remember when I was a kid, there was the first eclipse, of my life. I think I was, third or fourth grade, something like that. The teacher told us, this is really easy. You don't need fancy equipment. You just need two pieces of paper that are somewhat, like crepe paper, like flashcards. And all you got to do is take one flashcard, just poke a hole in it, right? Turn your back to the sun and hold that paper up with the poked hole in it, and then put the other paper in front, a couple feet away with your other arm, and just, line up the shadows, and you'll see the whole thing. You can see the eclipse without looking at it. Don't look at the eclipse. Don't look as the darkness overtakes the light. Don't look at it. You'll go blind and crazy. So what do? What is the art of viewing the eclipse without any of the harmful effects? Because let me tell you something. As we look at what's going on here in New York, where this is a clear demonstration of demonic activity. It doesn't get any clearer than this. Well, it does, but no, it doesn't. It doesn't get any clearer. There's things that are certainly worse, but it doesn't become any clear. There's no level of clarity that's above this. There's no percent, visibility. When you get the weather report, it's like, oh, there's this much visibility. It doesn't become any more visible. It doesn't become any more visible. There's degrees of severity, but not clarity. This is clearly the work of the devil. And I will qualify that statement. But first, let me read to you words of hope. This is written, this is a daily devotional called Jesus Calling. It is written in the first person. It was written by Sarah Young. She was a longtime missionary. It's written in the first person, so this is as if Jesus is speaking directly to the reader, or to you as I read to you. Quote, "My peace is the treasure of treasures. Not very much peace, is there, when you look at what just happened in New York? What's going on with the Covington kids? There's not much peace, is there? No, there's anger and violence. It makes you want to become violent. Jesus says, my peace is the treasure of treasures. It is the pearl of great price. It is an exquisitely costly gift, both for the giver and the receiver. That peace will cost you. It costs the receiver. It costs the giver. But if you're going to receive it, though it is a gift, it's very expensive. I purchased this peace for you with my blood. The very blood of God was shed that you might receive this peace. You receive this gift by trusting me in the midst of life's storms. And if you have the world's peace, you know, everything going your way, then you won't seek my unfathomable peace. Thank me when things do not go your way, because spiritual blessings come wrapped in trials. Adverse circumstances are normal in a fallen world. Expect them each day. Expect them every day. Expect them. Expect them with bated breath, with eager anticipation. Expect the trials. Rejoice in the face of hardship, for I have overcome the world. Let me blow my nose here. Now, what do? I told you before, the way that C.S. Lewis put it is that, and this is why you have to read the Screwtape Letters and carry it along with your Bible. You know, the C.S. Lewis was a gem, just a brilliant thinker. The way that he could conceptualize things is unparalleled. There's certainly J.R. Tolkien, who was actually his really good buddy, similar in his profundity. But no, you know what I mean? Like the way that, like C.S. Lewis was an atheist his whole life until he went off to, I think it was Cambridge or Oxford, and he met J.R. Tolkien, and he converted. But like in the Screwtape Letters, he's not writing a story. It's not a story. He's giving you a manual, not Emmanuel, a space manual. This is how the demons are going to attack. And the first thing out of his mouth pretty much in that book is, look, the devil wants he wants people in one of two camps, and that's, one, he wants people to not believe that there is a God or a devil at all. And if he's got you there, well, enter Sam Harris. The devil has Sam Harris right where he wants him. Right where he wants him. But the other camp, sorry for blowing my nose into the podcast there. I should probably try to edit that out, but who knows? Let's keep it gritty. Let's keep it real, man. Pete's got a runny nose. Old Petey. Runny face. The other camp, which again, I'm not sure if the demons have a favorite. I don't know if one is, in the eyes of demons, superior to the other. I think they're both equal. They're probably both equal. They're happy. Either way, if we can get you into one of these camps, we're good. You get outside of either of these two camps, now you represent a threat to the kingdom of darkness. The other camp is, they want you staring at the eclipse. They want your eyes to burn. They want the maddening effects, because they say, like, don't stare at the sun. Why? Not that you'll go blind, but because you'll go crazy. It changes, what I mean? Your eyeballs are directly connected to your brain, you know what I mean? You don't want to send stellar radiation through your eyeballs into your brain. It changes the way your brain operates. Don't stare at the sun. And when darkness is overtaking the sun, which is a very rare occurrence, when the eclipse comes, when the moon covers the sun, the tendency is to stare at it because it's like, ooh, look at that, the gods must be angry or whatever. You know what I mean? The tendency is to stare at it. You can't do it. That's what the demons want you to do. They want you to stare and go mad, go crazy, because then the demons can get inside of you. With the seed of hatred. Hatred is a funny little thing, man. Hatred has the power to turn the person who hates into the very thing that they hate. It's crazy. And at the same time, you cannot be unaware. You can't not look at it. You have to do something to view it. Because if you don't, then you're just ignorant. You're ignorant of the facts. You know what I mean? You don't want to be ignorant. I mean, there's things that go on all the time that none of us know about. There's things that go on all the time that all of us are ignorant to. And there's a certain amount of I don't know, I guess acceptableness to that. I mean, you can't possibly take notice of everything, be concerned about everything. I opened up Twitter this morning just to check, some of my whatevers, tweets and responses and that sort of thing. First thing I see is a tweet from James Woods, right? Who I like. I think he's a good American, good actor. But he had this tweet where it was some mother, a black lady, had decided to videotape herself beating and suffocating her toddler son. That's what I woke up to. Well, I mean, thank God I had already taken some time to pray and read, my devotion and, a couple chapters of the Bible to my wife. So my mind was somewhat prepared. But that was the first thing I saw, and immediately my gut turned in anger, where it's like, I just want that person who did that lady, I want her to die. So immediately, like very early in the morning, I'm already thinking thoughts of like, I hope that, thoughts of violence and wrath and murder, wishing murder upon that lady who was beating her toddler, who was beating and suffocating an innocent, and thought that it was worthy of video recording and putting it on the internet for all to see. How do you view something like that without burning your eyeballs and going crazy? What device do you use to filter out the harmful radiation so that you can see the heavenly event? You know what I mean? The event that's happening in, spiritual places or heavenly places, or, places that are outside of our atmosphere. You might look at, you go to the grocery store, you see some kid acting up, and you see some mother, grabbing that kid and whooping his little butt. And you think, ha ha, because we all remember that. I remember my mom whooping my ass, you remember yours, and you know what I mean? Like, that's normal, right? But then you've been in situations out in public where you've seen parents they weren't trying to correct the behavior of their children and create good citizens. They were just being abusive. And the difference is you could see the intention in the parent's heart. You could see that they were reacting out of personal anger. That they were expecting that child behave like an adult, which is impossible. and that they were angry and they were just abusing their kids, and you think like, oh, that's demonic. So how can relatively the same behavior, right, the same actions, how can one be righteous and one be evil? And it's like, well, your intention. Your intention. I know, I have never doubted the fact that my mother loves me. And you know what I mean? And anytime I got spankings or ass whoopings or however it is that you want to phrase it, though at the time she seemed like a monster, but looking back, it's like, thank God. Thank God. Thank God my mom had the presence of mind to whoop my ass when I was, doing things wrong. I remember, and this is like one of the reasons I think I never really got into, because a lot of men suffer from porn addiction. And it's real, man. But I can't relate to it. I've had porno before. I've purchased it. Owned it. You can, do the math, the rest of the way if you want. But I've never had an addiction to it. I think the reason why is because I remember when I was a kid. See, when I was a kid, there was no internet. And, there was no, there were only like 3 channels on TV. Plus, PBS, which doesn't count. There were 3 major networks plus PBS. That's all there was. There was no, there was no cable. There was no such thing. And then there was this new thing called HBO, and you could pay extra money, and you'd have a box that they'd excuse me. They'd have a box, and only rich people had it. I had the proverbial rich uncle, Uncle John. He owns, still to this day, he owns a huge landscaping company. And they had HBO. My cousin Johnny was like, dude, you gotta check this out, man. There's this one channel now that we have this box. And you can tell that it's pornography. You can tell that it's a porn video. But you couldn't see it because it was all wavy and scrambled, but you could kind of hear it. And then like once every, 60 seconds, the scrambling would go through such a long cycle that you get like a half of a glimpse of a clear shot. Right? There was no porn. That's what I'm saying. There's no Pornhub. There's no free porn. Like whatever. Porn was magazines. And nobody had access to it because we were all just kids, And there was, I remember me and my friend Danny. We were playing in the woods like we always did. We came across a stack of porn magazines, like Playboys and Penthouse or whatever. We looked at them, and I ran home and I asked my mom, like, what does the F word mean? And she slapped my face. And then she had a long talk with me and then spanked my ass. She was like, listen, you have to stay away from that. Never look at that stuff. That's bad for you. I can't remember at all like what she actually said, but I remember getting the gist of it. It's like, oh, stay away from this. In my whole life, anytime I looked at porn or watched a porn movie or whatever, like, I don't know what other dudes get out of it, but what I get out of it is a feeling like I've stolen something precious from somebody. You know what I mean? Like I feel dirty and guilty, but it's a particular type of guilt. It's a guilt where it's like I feel like I took something that didn't belong to me, that was very important to the person that I stole it from. You know what I mean? It's like one thing if you go and steal somebody's lawn furniture. It's a completely other thing if you steal, you go into their house and you steal their photo album. Actually, it's probably a good reason my mind went right to that. It's like I didn't just steal from you. I stole your sacred things of your mind and spirit. That's why I never got into. That's why I never struggled with the addiction to porn. I have addiction like cigarettes. I've talked about this. You know what I mean? Everybody has addictive qualities, but it's like there's just certain things where it's like, no, I'm not addicted to that. I told you guys before, like I got really depressed one time. I was like 30, some things happened that weren't going my way, and so I decided I was just gonna say, you know what, forget it. I'm just gonna do a bunch of drugs and just have a good old time. I was making lots of money and whatever. And I tried my hardest to like get into cocaine. Couldn't do it, man. I was doing that drug and just thinking like, I don't understand why people. This is not fun. This sucks. This is awful. How do people get hooked on this? This is terrible. I feel like crap all the time. I feel great for about 5, maybe 10 minutes. And then for the next 3 days, you know what I mean? I feel like I got hit by a truck. I don't get it. Why in the world did I start talking about that? Why did I start talking about that? I was talking about, I started talking about porn. Boy. Sorry guys. I don't know how I'm going to recover from this one. Anyways, you're staring at the wickedness of today. And you're hearing this brand new news on the heels of what happened with the Covington Catholic kids. That we're finding out that New York, their own state senate, passed through a law that now enables them to murder a baby and the only rule is as long as it's inside the womb, doesn't matter how old it is, they can now inject a poison into that baby so that it gets poisoned to death. How do you hear that news without throwing up and going on a murderous rampage and screaming, walking down the street screaming like a madman? Like one of those deranged preachers that are on the streets that are like, the end is nigh, the end is nigh. Listen, if that happens to you, you stared too long. You stared too long. And now the demons got you. And now you're walking around the street screaming, the end is nigh. Check and mate, the demons won. How do you keep that from happening? What filter? Oh yeah, that's right. Before I was talking about porn, I was talking about like when you see the kids being beaten in the grocery store. In one sense, in one example, it's you see it and you kind of laugh because you can relate to it because, not many years ago, 30 plus years ago, that was you getting your ass whooped and you needed it. And then on the other hand, it's like you're seeing abuse like what it was that James Wood put up there. And it's like, that's not holy. That's unholy. It's unclean. It's filthy. It's demonic. This lady's beating her kid. I remember, I don't know, a year or so ago, maybe, no, it was longer than that. A couple years ago, I seen a video on Facebook or Twitter, and it was a black lady who was like 9 months pregnant, like big pregnant. And she was videotaping herself in the mirror, and she was beating the baby inside of her belly with a hammer. You say, Pete, please don't tell me things like that. I know, dude. I saw it on Facebook. When you see those things, you have to understand, like, look, that's real. It happened. You need to be aware of it. You need to be aware of it. That's what we're up against. This is the war. And those are our enemy. Those people, those demons, that is the enemy. You need to be aware of your enemy. So how do you know your enemy without becoming your enemy? How do you do that? How do you stare at the eclipse without going blind and crazy? It's going to require laser focus. You have to see that this is a strategy, that this law that came about in New York, you think about it like this, like they say coincidences are the signature of God. There are no coincidences. Coincidences are ways that God signs his work. So when you see what just happened in Texas, where they said, okay, no more public funds for these abortions. These what had happened is they found out that Planned Parenthood was, in fact, beyond a shadow of a doubt, selling human body parts. They were trafficking in human biological material not feces and urine. They were trafficking in body parts. That is well established and beyond a shadow of a doubt. And because of the presiding lawsuit that proved all that, companies went out of business and millions of dollars changed hands. It's beyond a shadow of a doubt. Planned Parenthood is trafficking in human body parts, which I know that I don't need to say this, but I'm going to anyways. Just, you may not know this, but that is against the law. And there is a reason that we as a society, that we have a law that says you may not traffic in human body parts. Planned Parenthood traffics in human body parts, and those particular human body parts are the body parts of infants from their mother's wombs. The one place that should be the most safe environment in the world for a human is in its own mother's womb. Do you know that it's against the law to perform an abortion on a deer? It's against the law. Strictly forbidden. Do you know that? Once a deer is out in the wild, it's the most dangerous place. There's bears and cougars and cliffs to fall off of, all kinds of nastiness. The safest place in the world for a baby deer is in its mother's belly. Once it comes out of that belly, it's the most dangerous place in the world. Because of the abortion rate, over 300,000 per year. Statistically, the most dangerous place for a human being to be in America is in its own mother's womb. So Texas came through and they said, okay, no more government funds for you. No more taxpayer dollars. Right? And immediately afterwards, because you have to look at it like this, why in the world would New York want to pass a law to make it so that anyone could have an abortion at 9 months? Most pro-choice people, most of them, have a cutoff. They're like, yeah, once you can hear a heartbeat, yeah, no more. Like, it's too late. You should have gone to the doctor in the first 6 weeks or whatever. Most abortion people, over like a simple majority, over half, almost all of the pro-choice people, almost all of them, or at least more than half of them, they're all people who are like, yeah, I mean, at a certain point, it's like, it's not a matter of choice anymore. There's a definite heartbeat. We can hear it. You can't do it anymore. Sorry, you're too late. So why, if that's the case, if most people who are like, yay, abortion, if most of those people are against abortions at 9 months, why would the state of New York want to do that? Why would they want to do that if not for posturing? To say, look at us. Look at us. Oh, you want to take federal funds away from abortions down in Texas? And the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has judged that you may no longer pay for this carnage with Christian taxpayer dollars. That's why. That's why this happened. New York is what they're doing. You have to see this is that it's not an assault on you. It's an assault on God. This is the thing. It's like New York is about to find out. It's like that age-old question, the question that has haunted mankind from the very beginning. Is there a God? Will it communicate with us if there is? What is the purpose of my life? Why am I here? Is there a God who created me? Is there a God is the question that has echoed through the halls of all of human written history. And New York, to you I say congratulations, you atheists, you are about to find out. What New York did is, it is an assault. This is the big middle finger to God. Oh, you want to take my money away over there? Then I'm going to make it so that we shove it in Americans' faces that we kill babies here at 9 months. That we are that dedicated to our God. That is, listen, it says, I think it's Isaiah or Jeremiah, it says, when God says, he says, listen, I take no pleasure, I take no joy in the destruction of the wicked. Says in Micah's, the Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, rich in love. Does not say absent of anger. Says slow. Takes a long time to get God worked up, but he can get there now. And when he does, it means that you've broken his heart. You don't think that God's wrath can be poured out while he loves the person that he pours it out on? You don't think both of those can happen at the same time? Dear Lutheran. You don't think God gets angry and pours out his wrath? I would invite you to read the Gospels, particularly at the end. There's this whole scene where God pours out all of his wrath on the person that he loves the most. You don't think God can be a God of love and pour out his wrath and kill a bunch of people? Congratulations, New York. You're about to get an answer to the age-old question of if there is a God. It's that sort of thing, and you could say, well, yeah, you could say that, but like, well, why hasn't God done anything since 1973? When Roe v. Wade got... Listen, that was different. I hate to say that, but that was different. We didn't know. We didn't know what abortions were back then. Only the surgeons who performed the abortions knew. Not even the mother knew what was going on. We didn't know. And there was no way to find out. The technology that shows us what actually happens during an abortion now, it wasn't available in 1973. And if it was, Roe v. Wade would have never gone through. There was a bit of grace that God could do in that situation. It's like, oh, they, forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. And we didn't know what we were doing. We were just saying, look, there's some ladies that are sticking coat hangers up there and they're bleeding out and dying. We got to fix this, man. We need to make it available so that this doesn't happen. And the rest of the world is like, oh, well, I guess that sort of makes sense, I suppose. We didn't know that what was actually going on. That what was actually going on was that surgeons were reaching up into the womb, grabbing infants by their legs and arms and tearing them apart. We didn't know that until just recently. We didn't know that the organization that was doing it was planning to sell human body parts from those babies for profit. Oh, the love of money. Way down deep in the roots, we can find once again the love of money. Every time you see evil, you inspect those roots, you're going to find the love of money in there somewhere. But this time we do know. This time ignorance cannot be claimed. This time, they're making this particular ruling as a declaration The same way Ho Chi Minh would stack baby parts, the body parts of children. He'd chop up children and put the parts in piles so that the American soldiers would see them. It was a declaration. It was a communication. Ho Chi Minh was trying to communicate with his enemy. To say, look, this is what we do. Do you understand? This is how dedicated we are to communism. We don't need your help. We're so dedicated that we will show you the most disturbing image that will forever be burned into your mind. We're going to shift the whole direction of the rest of your life in this one image that we're going to show you in real life. We're going to take children and chop them up into pieces and put those pieces in a pile. It was a communication, a willful communication, a calculated communication, a powerful communication, an effective communication. This is what New York has done. They have sent a communication. And they have said, we don't like Donald Trump. And we don't like you Republicans. As a matter of fact, we can't wait till you're dead. I had a guy say that to me just 2 days ago, day before yesterday. Your way of thinking is old and we cannot wait. He said we, like Legion. We cannot wait until you people are dead. We don't like Donald Trump. We don't like conservatives. We don't like Christians. We don't like white people. We don't like men. And you have to understand that we are your enemy. So guess what? We're going to show you now what's really in our hearts and who it is that you're actually fighting. We're going to murder babies that are 9 months old, and we're going to do it legally. How do you look at that without going crazy? Because you have to look at it. You have to. You have to be aware of it. How do you come to the awareness of that without going crazy? There is a spirit that can get in you from looking at that. Right? And you can sit there. I'm sure there's a lot of Christians that are like, well, doesn't the Bible say, righteous anger or whatever? It's like, yeah. But don't come at me with that argument. It's not going to work out well for you. Because what's most likely, your anger, right? Your disgust and the desire for violence that these sort of facts as they come out can bring, what you're experiencing in your body and in your mind, it may be righteous anger, it may be, but I would doubt it. I think it's demons trying to corner you into staring into the abyss, going crazy. Right? But again, I ask the question, how do you do that? How do you be responsibly aware of the battlefield, which you have to be? Right? You're on a battlefield, your buddies are getting murdered, your buddies are being chopped up. I ever tell you the time that we were doing an operation and it was joint. It was a joint task force. It was the Marines and the Army was there, Navy of course, and the Air Force, and the Australian Marines were there, and I want to say the British Marines, but I don't know. That's 20 some years ago. There's a rifle called a squad automatic weapon. Right? It's a machine gun. And it fires 1,000 rounds a minute. Now, 1,000 rounds a minute is 12 rounds a second. Okay? 12 bullets every 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3. It's a stream. It's a hose that squirts nearly molten brass. It's just a hose of bullets. Just. And one of the army guys, he was the saw gunner. Saw is squad automatic weapon. It's a saw. His point man got a little bit too in front of him, and he pulled that trigger and literally sawed the man's leg off. Just, shot that gun, and his leg just came clean off. And he died from the complications that result from blood loss. It's usually when you lose blood, typically if you lose blood fast enough, you don't actually die from blood loss. You die from your heart can't handle the difference in blood pressure, and it just pops. That's what that guy died from. Why in the world did I just tell you that story? I'm sorry, guys. I've got a really stuffed nose, and it's like I can't think right now. How do you the battlefield. I'm sorry, guys. So you're on the battlefield, right? And one of your buddies just got his leg chopped off. He's screaming, right? You've got the enemy over there, and they're shooting bullets at you, and there's bombs going off everywhere, and there's people screaming, and all you want, you're scared to death. Like, how do you live in that environment without going crazy? The answer, my friend, is not blowing in the wind. The answer, my friend, is Jesus Christ. You're going to have to learn how to talk to him. You're going to have to learn what is an unclean spirit and what is a holy spirit. Which is a spirit that is defiled, and which is a spirit that is holy. You're going to have to learn these lessons. They're quick if you ask for them. They're quick if you mean it. If you quit, they're quick if you can. The quicker that you can identify your dependency on it, the quicker you'll receive it. And you have but to ask. This is the will of the Lord for you to have. You better get into it, man, because there's not a war coming. The war is here. The enemy of your soul just declared yesterday, we will murder babies now because of you Christian people who want border security, who want accountability in government officials, who don't want Muslims training on our soil how to kill our children. You people, you filthy Christians, guess what? Here's a declaration. Dead baby parts. We're selling them, by the way, if you're interested. If you're in the market, we're also selling these dead baby parts. We now kill babies at 9 months. That's a declaration. You can sit there and say, oh no, I have righteous indignation. The reason I'm angry at this is because, God requires me to be angry. I doubt it. Why do I doubt that? I'll tell you exactly why. Because I follow Jesus with my whole heart. And I'm like the worst Christian who ever lived. I'm really not good at being a Christian. But, I want to be, I want to follow Jesus. That's what I want. But I'm not very good at it. And when I see these things as dedicated to Jesus Christ as I am, my first response when I see things like this is like, oh, you better not make me come back to the United States because evidently there's a whole bunch of people that need to go. You know what I mean? Like, my first response is like, okay, well, I'm a pretty good shot. I'm sure I can figure out how to apply that skill somewhere. That's where the demons want you. And I know that because God says, the battle belongs to me. I want you to participate because you are in the royal family. You are allowed on the battlefield, and I want you there. but the battle belongs to me. Never forget that. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Never forget that. We do get to participate in the battle, but we get to participate on a depending on God sort of way. And let me tell you something. You better figure out what that means, because there is violence coming to the state of New York. It will, at least to the government people who, the government workers who passed this law. Like, there's something. When you start flaunting your filth in front of God like that, bad things are coming. Now look, I could go on and on, and I will. This is what the show. Listen, people, pray. Learn how to pray. 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, first thing you do is you dedicate and you say to yourself, like, first thing in the morning, I'm going to pray for 5 minutes. I'm going to set my alarm, I'm going to pray for 5 minutes. And then you do that, and then you realize, like, oh my gosh, how weak am I that I can only pray for 5 minutes? How weak am I that I get so relieved when my timer goes off and I'm done praying? What kind of spiritual weakling am I? I'm not talking to you, by the way. I'm not talking to you, by the way. You know what I mean? I go through this. This is what I go through. I have been so out of the practice of prayer for like 2 years that it's bizarre. It's like I've forgotten. I forgot how to pray. Like, it's like saying I forgot how to ride a bike. I sit down and pray with my wife. I pray for 5 minutes and then I'm like, 5 minutes? That's all I could do? That's all I've got. And then I'm happy that the 5 minutes are finally over and I don't have to pray anymore? Weakling. Weakling. You and me. You and me. I'm not over here preaching to you. I'm saying you and me had better learn how to pray now. What else do you need to see? 9 months. They can kill a baby at 9 months legally in the state of New York. What else do you need? What other convincing do you need? If you weren't convinced already that there is a spiritual war happening and blood is being shed, human blood, that the spiritual realm, it is more real than the reality that we know. It's more real. It has a greater effect than we have on one another. What more do you need? What more do you need to see? If you're not convinced yet, then go join the other side. We don't want you. Don't want you. I'm sick. I've seen you my whole life in church. Go, please. Get out. Beat it. You know what I mean? Like, can you not see what's happening? What other reason could they do that? It would cause them to do that. You know? Anyways. Hey, if you want to support the show, please put a tip in the tip jar. Arch Advocate. PayPal.me/ArchAdvocate. ARCH Advocate. ADVOCATE. Arch Advocate. Arch Advocate. PayPal.me/Arch Advocate. Support what you love. Hey, man. Crazy times. Sorry about all the nose blowing and sneezing and all that. I'll probably edit most of that out. But hey, man, pray. And if you need help, call me. Write to me on Telegram. Send me a message. Go on to my website. Go down to archavocate.com. You can scroll down to the bottom. Do the little email thing. Send me a message. Or hit me up on Facebook or Twitter or Telegram. Whatever. If you need help, dude, I'll help you. I'm here for you. I need it just as much as you do. We all need help in this. There is nobody who's mastered the art of prayer. You know what I mean? Everybody needs help. Everybody needs accountability. The war is on. Beware. Beware. Don't stare too long at the evil that it starts making you evil. Don't stare at the eclipse with your eyes. You'll go blind and crazy. It only looks like the darkness is overtaking the light, but the fact is that the moon is thousands of times smaller than the sun. It only looks like the darkness is overtaking the light. Don't stare directly at it. Because if you do, you will be where the filthy sulfur-smelling demons want you to be, staring at the evil. Anyways, that's the show. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Support the show. Arch Advocate. PayPal.me/ArchAdvocate. I would appreciate it. And we will talk to you tomorrow.